Story keeping. You know, we just from the very beginning have been documenting like crazy, and we have been building reflection into everything that we do. And so people who are involved with Sketch know that they're also going to be responsible for an awful lot of recording and documentation, and that starts with, you know, basic project questions. How did you do what you did? What went right? What went wrong? And what do you need to do from here? To now, like, you know, we have these quarterly reports that we have to fill out, and then we have this annual evaluation that we do, and I'll talk a little bit more about evaluation later. But it's this whole idea of making sure that you know what the story is about, how it's changing, how it's evolving, and how you keep communicating the core of its message.
So the next part we want to talk about is revenue generation, and how many people here love to ask for money? Come on, I know there's some people. And I think that the way that we have adopted our approach to asking for money really has a lot to do with the relationships and the integrity when we're asking for it. That we have the passion and the focus and the vision. We can see it before it happens, that we're clear about what we want. And then when we're not, that we can work within those relationships with the funders to say, we're not so clear, let's talk about it, what do you see, and building that partnership. So you see the stream through all of these three things is all about continuous relationship building and partnership building. We also spend time discerning where we're going to go and ask for funds, so that we know when we're going there that it's going to be a fit. We have three areas that we look at as potential revenue generation. The first one is obviously individuals. And really they're your strongest circle of friends, right? They're the people who are going to stay with you. And we've been very fortunate at Sketch that the people who started with us 12 years ago, there are many, many who are still with us. And I think that's got to do, again, with the engagement and the building of relationships with people and really caring for those individuals. We have a hope and a desire at Sketch that 40 to 50% of our budget will be individual giving. That's where you can start to kind of risk and take chances and really build some new ideas and try some stuff out, so that you can keep things moving in terms of the vision. The next one is grant seeking and foundations, which we talked a bit about. That we don't just throw out the invitations, that we're very specific about who we go to and who we're going to build relationships with, and then we're also open to suggestions from those funders and supporters to say, where else do you think we could go? They're involved in our story making, they're involved in the partnerships. And then as part of that inclusion, then we make sure that we're very accountable to that, and that comes in our capacity building side of things. Corporations for Sketch has been a bit more challenging because we're not really mainstream. We can't do the big national hits for CIBC, right? And we've learned that. We've sat with them and said, here's who we are, here's what we do, and they're going, downtown, inner city, streets, it's not going to get them a lot of airtime. So we go back again to relationship building. Who do our friends know? Who do the board of directors know? Who's in their circles of relationships? What doors can they open? And then our job is to go in and tell, again, the compelling story, to invite them to the party, to engage them in something that they might not have ever known before or might have been touched on before at some point in their own career. For instance, we have an individual who is now our chair who really just, his whole desire in life was to be a painter. And he ended up in corporate investments, and now he gets to, be a part of something very creative, and he calls Sketch his happy place. So it's great. But the corporations, and once you do have the relationship again, we find that they do stay with us, and we're able to build those relationships. The last one is events, and everybody loves doing events, right? They're so huge, such a big undertaking. And I think the key thing there is that we see the events as a larger venue for telling our story. We don't necessarily do events to raise a ton of money. Hopefully that's the outcome, but it takes a long time to build towards raising a lot of money from an event. It takes a lot more resources at the beginning. Right now, next Thursday, we have our upcoming event called Boot It Up. And it is a good example of, it's been 5 years, it's our 5th year. We've got a great sort of template of how to do it, but it still requires a lot of work. And we don't do it alone. It started with 3 of us sort of doing all the planning, and now we have a committee of about, Megan, how many are on that committee now? I know about 8, 9 people. Yeah, Megan is recently just been hired as Sketch as our general manager, and is carrying a lot of the weight of this particular year's event. So, but it's a risk, and that's the risk and opportunity to create events. Now, the key to the event is that it relates to who you are. It's an expression of what you do. So there's a big difference between us doing Boot It Up, which is a partnership with Limestone Boots. They donate to us about 40, 45 pairs of boots. We send them out to community artists. We have youth participants art them up, and then we have a live auction and a big celebration at the Steam Whistle. In addition to that, through those relationships in that committee, we've also built relationships with 10 ad agencies that are now competing against each other to see who can do the most creative boots. So they have done that, and they're spectacular. You can check it out on the website. And we have then, in addition to that, spread out further, and we have a relationship with Bata Shoe Museum, who now is showing the top 20 boots. We're keeping the top 10 secret. And you, right now, can go to the Bata Shoe Museum, thanks to our partnership with them, for free entry, and you can go and see the top 20 boots that are going to be auctioned next Thursday. That's taken 5 years, lots of relationship building, lots of give and take, and a real commitment, but it makes sense to who we are and what we're doing. And hopefully at the end of the day we'll raise a bit of money.
Did you want to talk about that in contrast to another event that we were running at one point, which was inspired by our board chair at the time, a wine tasting? And I guess it's just interesting to contrast, because the Boot It Up party is much more fun and much more creative, much more suited to who we are, whereas the wine tasting always sat a little bit funny in our bellies, and we were just never sure, how can we make that connection and have it make sense? And it was about getting to know people and stuff, but it seemed very specific to the people who were on the board at the time. And so it was a really lovely event, and we did have the opportunity to do an annual exhibition and show some art, but it never really took off, right? Because it was sort of a very, well, anyway, it doesn't make sense. Oh, 3 minutes. Okay, stop talking! Capacity building! The most important thing about capacity building is the third most important arm, because all the while that the story is building and that the revenue generation builds, you have to keep the internal growth happening, and you have to keep it healthy, and keep fostering a really strong sense of ownership within Sketch. And so I have to say that capacity building is about the staffing, the leadership, the board of directors, the volunteers, and the participants, all of us yoked together, working with all of our assets and kind of coming together and figuring out, okay, how can we take this place to the next level? And we have a lot of youth that are traveling across Canada and that are very interested in sort of sketching this across Canada right now, and they're really the ones who are going to take the message out there. And so they have the capacity. And I also think the other important thing is to work on succession planning right away. Right away, and to just keep fostering leadership amongst people, and keep deferring it, keep giving it over, and keep kind of creating a space for people to experiment with their identity and their leadership, let things flop, and then try to rebuild. So one of our real important core values at Sketch is just to embrace failure, to allow each other the grace to fail, make mistakes, and really try to learn from that.